It's evident that he cares. What do you care about? Welcome to the Rock Newman Show. It's the Rock Newman Show.
I had a crossroads after I graduated from Harvard, where I had to ask myself, I'm very ambitious. I have a lot of goals. What place is romance going to take up in my life? Is this going to be a distraction? And I looked at so many successful women that I deeply admired, and they had everything but someone to come home to at the end of the day. And when I noticed that, I told myself, I have to make time for love. I have to make time to be someone that is loving. And like my mom always tells me, no one has to love you.
Hello, beloved. On this February the 14th, what many call Valentine's Day, and there are a whole lot of factors around Valentine's Day, and some people talk about it being not such a pleasant time, but it's February the 14th, and I'm gonna go with that. It's Valentine's Day, and I make that point because my guests today have what has been a love story. Mm. And when you think about Valentine's Day, you think about the heart, you think about emotions, you think about love, you think about caring for each other, you think about supporting each other. And if I can share with you that most recently, as in a very short time ago, my guests decided at the age of 25 years old that they wanted to marry. And so they jumped the broom, if you will. They got married in Las Vegas. Rumor is that it was that you guys eloped. Before they start telling the story, let me tell you their name. It is Sol, and Cassius Johnson. So my first question to you, as having been an incredible, not just fight fan, but more importantly, a fan of the Louisville Lip, who was born on January the 17th, 1942 in Louisville, Kentucky. He later became known to the world as Cassius Clay, but then became Muhammad Ali. Cassius, let me ask you first. Was your name associated? Did your parents give you that name having anything to do with Cassius Clay?
Oh, definitely. They definitely did. It's funny, when I was born, I came out the womb. It was a little tough on my mom, but I came out with bruises all over my face. And so that was kind of what their initial thought of naming me Cassius Johnson was. But actually, before that, I came home, they put me up onto the kitchen counter, and they looked at me and they were like, this is Cassius Johnson. Because originally they named me Johannes, which was after my uncle. And they took one look at me once they came home, and they were like, no, this is Cassius Johnson.
Oh, man, we're going to spend some time today. Getting to know you most definitely. So you've been on the show with us one time before, with your mom and your two fantastic sisters. So let me say, welcome back to the Rock Newman Show 2.0. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. It was an experience the first time. I'm excited for the follow-up here.
Okay, the follow-up, man. So what is this? This is probably about 6-7 years later.
Yeah.
After you matriculated to Harvard University. Absolutely, if my recollection is correct, was a leader on campus. Raised some hell on campus. Danced on campus. Had fantastic writing coming out of campus. What are you doing now? Tell us what you're doing today.
I'm creating my own world wherever I can, telling stories. I'm performing, I'm acting, I'm dancing. I've been really blessed to receive opportunities to perform off Broadway since graduating, to produce different conferences, different concerts. So, yeah, I'm still just making my art and telling the stories of our people.
Telling the stories of our people. Let me just tell you, when I became aware that not only had you guys decided to get married and then got married,
Mhm.
but I became aware of you both having an interest, talking about something about our people,
Mhm.
having an interest in being an example of Black love,
Yep.
Mhm.
and an example for young folks and truly through the spectrum within the community to love each other.
Mhm.
That I'm going to tell you that just simply it warmed my heart. I fully understand. I had a highly successful, perhaps the most successful African American real estate developer in the country.
Mm.
Don Peoples on my show several years ago. And Don is married. You know, his wife is Katrina Peoples, and she's blonde and blue eyed.
Mhm.
And I don't know if I asked him, I don't know what the question was, but his answer was, hey, you find love where love is.
Mhm.
Mm.
And, you know, he said her being white didn't have anything to do with him marrying her. Um, I asked that, the backdrop of my asking that was seeing so often, especially Black athletes and entertainers,
Mhm.
when you sign that big contract, the brothers seem to gravitate towards blonde and blue eyed or to get that white girl.
Mhm.
Hey, I'm just trying to be as real as I can. And my position has been that that appetite, I'm concerned that that appetite has something to do with not loving yourself enough or not loving your people enough. And I would like for both of you to weigh in on that.
For sure. I guess I could go first on that. I mean, I think you're definitely right. I think that when you are pursuing love and that is something that you choose the blonde hair, blue eyed white woman, like you said. I think that I think that it is definitely a lack of self love, and especially I think that when you come from communities like Sol and I have come from, especially the academic communities that we've come from. Um, I think the people of color, specifically the Black men, who you know they are lifted up socially and economically, and through that, I think part of that aspiration is attaining the money and attaining the so-called status that may come with marrying a white person. And I think a lot of these academic institutions, uh, a lot of it is about assimilating into white culture, and it's the way that you talk, the music that you listen to, the friends that you hang out with, and the women that you date, you know. And with these things being true, I think that a lot of Black men specifically, I think that they see that as one being something that's like forbidden, that we're not supposed to have, and two, I think it's kind of like a stamp of approval, I guess, that they feel they can receive from other white people. It's like, oh, yes, I'm black, but I'm accepted by this white person. So I'm accepted by the white community. So I can, be a part of this white community and the all that comes with it.
So before you jump in, I remember a few years ago on a Facebook post, a gentleman describing, a black gentleman describing the happiest day of his life.
Mm.
He didn't say it was his wedding day. He said when he was convinced that his white wife's father accepted him. That was the happiest day of his life. And that was like a piercing arrow that hit me to say, who are you? What is your thought process? That acceptance and validation by someone from another community becomes the happiest day of your life. And so I would like to ask you, in the schools, the private schools that you've been to, the prestigious schools that you've been to, and including Harvard, as you walk the halls and as you walk across campus, did you feel, as a brown-skinned sister, that your brothers were more inclined to look at paler skin, more pale skin?
Absolutely. I don't think that I felt a strong sense of solidarity with the Black male community at Harvard or at the private school that I met Cassius while I was attending there. Um, I definitely think that there's post-traumatic slave syndrome within the Black male community of people aspiring to have the things that white men have and wanting to use their romantic relationships as tokens of their masculinity. But I also think we need to look at the media we consume and who's being promoted as the ideal of beauty and who's being promoted as a representation of femininity. I think that, the reality is our sense of desire isn't totally natural. There are things that are conditioned and we're taught to want the things that we want. And when we turn on the television screen and we look at who's cast as the love interest versus who's cast as the slave or the help, these sorts of associations get really ingrained and it's hard to break out of them in your lived experiences. And so that's something that Cassius and I always talked about. And we were critical about the media we consumed as we were growing up. We're critical about social media and what it's telling us relationships need to look like. But I also would like to say that I don't think the reality is that white women and Black women are the same. Being in a romantic relationship with a Black woman encompasses all the socialization that we undergo as Black women. We're outspoken, we're strong-willed. There's a different sort of expectation and criteria that Black women hold everyone in their lives to. And so in addition to, I think, having that appetite devised from desire for power, I think it's also invading a sort of responsibility that comes with being the type of woman who knows what it means not just to be a strong man, but to be a strong Black man. And that means a sense of pride in your community. That means oftentimes a sense of responsibility to your community to give back and be a leader. And when you're not with someone who comes from where you come from, they're not going to hold you accountable to those same things.
Let's go back. How did you guys meet? And I know you said you met in private school.
In high school, yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
Okay. In social settings, I always ask a husband and wife where did they meet, because it becomes such an interesting story. And many times it's a story that is filled with conflict. So let me ask, how y'all meet?
Babe, can I take it?
Yeah, she tells the story way better.
So we had a group of friends that knew each other. We actually didn't know each other, but our friends had met on social media. And I'd seen his picture over one of my homegirls' shoulders on the phone. I'm like, who is that? And she kind of just brushed it off. She didn't know his name. And so I'm like, no, I really feel like I need to know this guy. And it was a strange feeling, but I knew one of his friends in the school they went to. So I go on Facebook, I start looking for his name, I start looking for his picture. I couldn't find it. I was devastated. All I knew is his name started with CAS, and I thought there was a Jamaican flag in the picture. So I'm like, maybe he's like a light-skinned Jamaican. 2 months pass, and another friend of mine comes to me and says, hey, I'm going on a date with this guy from his high school who's from Jamaica. And I'm like, oh my God, she's dating the guy I wanted to find. She showed me a picture, and I'm like, okay, that's not him. Then she shows me another picture, and the two of them are standing in a photo together. So I'm like, oh my gosh, ask him who this guy is. She reaches out to her date. He says, that's my best friend Cassius. Why? She says, my best friend wants to go on a date with him. So then they hook up immediately. We go on a double date, and literally the rest was history. That was 8 years ago now.
Cassius,
Yes.
how did you feel? Tell me the first time that you met Sol.
It's funny. The first time that we met, I had just gotten into like this whole discussion with my parents about like, going out, being safe and all of that. And so I was actually running late for our date, and I showed up 30 minutes late. I'm like, I'm so sorry. Like my parents, they were just, they were on me. They just wanted to make sure, like they wanted to give me this one last, pep talk before I left. But then I met her.
You're 16 then.
Uh, 17.
17.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So still a little under my parents' wing and all that stuff. But meet her at her school, drive her to the restaurant that we all met up at to have dinner. And afterwards, this was in the wintertime, and afterwards we're walking out, and Sol actually slips on some black ice, falls, and I catch her. And I'm like, I got you. Don't worry. As long as you're with me, I got you.
Man, you'll make me cry already.
But yeah, and then from there, we just hung out, the four of us. There was this river by her high school that we would always go to. It was like a nice little secluded area. We'd drive our cars there at night, put the headlights on so we could have some light, play some music, and just hang out. And that was kind of like our hangout spot until we graduated high school.
So this guy that you never met before catches you.
Yeah.
How did you feel when you all departed that night?
Well, first, let me interrupt you. So I was a very shy kid. While the four of us were speaking, I was kind of reserved. I didn't really speak to Sol that much. It was actually her and my best friend who were kind of talking that whole time. But I was very intrigued by her. And so after, we paid the check, we left. I don't know if I'm supposed to say this.
Say it. This is Rock Newman Show 2.0. Say it.
This is a little kept secret, but I saw the ice that you were walking on. And the way I positioned myself,
Wow.
I made sure that you stepped in.
This
so that I
boy
could
here
catch
is
you.
smart. This is a smart boy. This is a smart brother. Right?
So I was running a little game, even though I was quiet. The gears were turning in my head. I was like, how can I impress this woman? Show her that I got her.
Yeah.
I didn't know that this was the road that we would take, that we would end up getting married. But I was like, this is a very beautiful, young, interesting woman that I want to impress and make sure that I'm impressed by her.
And so when that night was over and your time with Cassius was done,
Mm-hmm.
can you tap into what you felt that night?
I was like, oh, he's fine. I was like, he's very fine in person. But he was really shy. I do remember being surprised because just off of seeing his pictures, I assumed like this is a buff football player. I knew the high school he went to and the community he was from, and I knew he had a brother that was also a football player. And I guess I just had this expectation he was gonna what his swagger would be, and that it was going to be sort of, uppity a little bit. And so to meet him and him being so grounded, so humble, in fact, even shy, I was like, oh, I don't know if he even sees just how beautiful he is. And the moment where he caught me, I was I was rowdy when I was younger. As a teenager, I was really feisty, and I made it a point to kind of take up a lot of space. But there was something in me that was also very vulnerable and something that was very lonely. And so for him to physically break that contact after being so shy, it showed me how strong he was. Like he may be reserved, but he was strong and he was confident. And from that point on, also the way that he pursued me, he was so consistent. He took so much initiative, planning our dates. Like a few weeks later was Valentine's Day, got me the most beautiful gifts. Like just showed up as a really, really decisive young man in a way that I'd never even witnessed of my peers that I was around. So I felt like I was in a fairy tale, honestly, very quickly, and I still do many days.
You know, when I started this show, what is now 12 years ago, part of what I wanted to do was to be a voice, a platform, an instrument for changing the narrative about who we were. And part of what I wanted to do was to highlight, showcase Black excellence. And to have the privilege and the honor today to unapologetically
Mhm.
introduce my audience to Black love is something I feel really good about it. And hell, I might thank you all another 3 or 4 times for doing this, because I think that in this time of absolute chaos in the country and in the community, the absolute schisms that exist between the Black man and the Black woman, I say the absolute schisms, certainly the schisms are elevated and promoted and highlighted. And again, you talk about the media we consume. It's by that media that promotes this. And we get in, Lord knows, we get into the music, we get into so many things in the culture that tell our people, especially our young people, in their in creative ways about their nothingness, about their lack of value. And to see two beautiful, young, brilliant, strong individuals in the absolute prime of life at 25 years old making the decision to, one, demonstrate your love to each other, and then look at the landscape and to say, we want to be examples, a good example for how you all might consider thinking and proceeding. How did that come about? How did that evolve?
Mm.
Well, I'll say this. Um, so I have two younger brothers. I'm the oldest sibling, and growing up, my parents, they're always like, "You're the example for your brothers. They look up to you. Even when you think they aren't, they are. And so just leading by example kind of has always been in the ethos of who I am as a person. And also like your point about the media that we consume and how it tells us how little we are, how nothing we are. I think I try to make it a point to understand who I am as a person and my values, because otherwise you'll just be led astray. It's so easy. It's so easy. Um, and so I think being an example for my brothers, but also for my friends, because I see the people that they date, no disrespect, but it's like they're lost themselves, and I'm not gonna talk like I have all of the answers, but at the same time, I can see where like I can see their blind spots, I can see where they aren't following themselves. They're following a path that they feel that they're supposed to, that they're told to, But it's to me, it's clear as day that that is not a path that they feel comfortable walking on, and it's a path that is not going to set them up for success, at least romantically. Um, and so yeah, this is something that we talk about very regularly. Being an example for our community, being an example for our families. Because I think a lot of people our age are lost. They don't really know who to turn to, what to do, And so honestly, I'm just very fortunate that Sol is someone that I can turn to. I trust her judgment. I trust her intelligence, and yeah, she's my voice of reason, when I'm being unreasonable.
Well, I think on that note, it didn't start with how do we model this relationship for the people that are looking at us. I think people began to look at us when they saw the fruits of what we were building together. When we were able to sign a lease and successfully pay our rent, when we first adopted our dog, when we adopted our kitten, when we started to excel in work, there were just our lives started to advance because of partnership. And when people would ask us, how are you doing these sorts of things? How were you able to transfer to Harvard? How did you get this opportunity? It was like, because my home life stabilized me and provided me something, because I had a champion in my partner. This young man instilled a sense of confidence in me that I didn't need to change myself for the world, because I knew that I was loved and I knew that I was going to be cared for, even if everybody else rejected me. And so that sense of self assuredness and strength and the vulnerability, the ability to fail somewhere safely with someone, it let me face the world in ways that made me strong. The sense of strength that I found in our partnership started to reflect in the success I was having outside of our partnership. And I couldn't tell anything other than it's this man loving me and believing in me. And when we weren't together, because it wasn't a straight linear road, we took time apart. I moved to London for a bit after I graduated. He decided to take an extra
After
semester.
you graduated from Harvard?
After I graduated from Harvard, I moved to London. He helped pack me up and he got me a Polaroid camera to document it. But I was like, I need to go discover myself and discover the world in ways that I can't do here. And so when we were apart, I was weaker. And when I would meet other people, I didn't see God in them. And that was another thing. People didn't believe in God. We live in a generation of people that feel so downtrodden. They've lost their sense of faith. And when Cassius and I met, he wasn't necessarily the most strong believer, but he was willing to reapproach his relationship to God because he saw how strongly I felt about it. And through that, he became a coach and a mentor for me of going to God. Even just today, when I felt frustrated from the DMV, he brought me back to pray. And so I think that partnership is really what the example we're trying to set is that you don't have to do this alone, but you do have to learn how to respect and nurture your relationships if you want them to water you back.
You know, I think I think about a conversation that I had. This has probably been 3 months ago now, when a longtime friend of mine, is an attorney, and she talked about in her mid 60s discovering that she really wanted to play a role and have a greater impact on teenagers. And so we had a robust conversation about that. And I told her, my opinion was how noble it was that at 66 years old, she had discovered that she wanted to play an active role in having an impact on teenagers. But I said, that road is filled with landmines. And so she was like, well, what are you talking about? And it just came to the name Sexy Red just came to me. She had never heard of Sexy Red. And I said, I think she has more than 1 million followers. And she said, well, how in the world could she have 1 million followers? I'm not that out of touch. And I never have heard of her name. We looked the name up, and I think she had I think it was like, at the time, more than 4 million followers.
I believe it.
And then I sent her a couple of videos of the ratchet, nasty, degenerate, filthy behavior that she was practicing. And I said, when I say the road, it ain't an easy and a smooth road. She was beyond belief that this must be some kind of setup. This must be AI generated. This must be fake news. And the shit was real. And it was more filthy than what I just gave voice to. So the fact that you all are doing what you are doing in stepping in a breach that is created by that kind of self-hatred and insanity, it is just so absolutely heartwarming. Now, I go back. Do you all have anything to say about that kind of behavior that so many of our young folks consume? The floor is yours, whoever like to take a shot at that.
I mean, I want to be clear that like we have tattoos, we smoke weed, we're still young in term, but at the end of the day, we know that there is more than one path to this life as Black people who want success. And we're only fed one image of how to get that. And it involves taking off my clothes and him saying crazy, disrespectful things, right? Like that's the image that's pushed. And we're just we're offering an alternative. It's not a matter of, I mean, personally, I just think that like black people come in so many different shapes and sizes and have so many different aspirations, but we're pigeonholed to conform to something, want to be platformed because we're not told that anything else can get out. So maybe Sexy Red gets to exist. Sexy Red and all the iterations of it have existed, Flavor Flav in New York and all that. Like this is nothing new, right? But like, can people like us also have an opportunity to step up to the mic and let people know there's another way to live? You know?
Yeah, I second that. So growing up, I was part of Jack and Jill, and so for those of you that don't know, Jack and Jill is like it's a mother's group where their sons and daughters they come together, and it's mostly African American affluent families. They come together, they intermingle, they do different community service activities, just different types of interactions with one another. But being in that organization, I was exposed to a lot of very successful Black people. And I think that was very beneficial to my development. Say what you want about Jack and Jill, but seeing those examples, I was like, okay, so this is something that's possible. This is something I can do. I don't have to, even though I did play football and I loved it, I don't have to be an athlete. I don't have to be a rapper. I don't have to sell drugs to be successful. I can pursue whatever my passions are, and be a respectful person, respect my wife, respect my family, respect my community, and just be an all around respectful, noble person, and still achieve high levels of success, and I think it was actually something that I admit I did take for granted growing up in that area. But I do think that a lot of our people are not exposed to examples. And I think just that, just knowing that it's possible, it goes so far, knowing one that it's possible and knowing that it's possible a certain way, I think it goes a long way for inspiration, motivation, and the goals that you set for the life that you want to live.
And I'll also just say that, we are making our decisions with the knowledge that we hope to grow older. Like if we're just living for today, if we're just living for what feels good now or what's hot now, then that's one set of decisions in our lives would look so different. But we're making choices with the knowledge, like if we lay certain foundations, and I guess this for me comes with being the youngest of four and having an older sibling that's over a decade older than me and seeing how, time reveals the work you didn't do and the work you weren't willing to put in. So sure, there's sacrifices that we're making today by making more mature choices and saying we're going to set aside our childhoods, but we also want to be homeowners. You know what I mean? We want retirement savings. We want to be able to enjoy the full breadth of our life, not just our youth. And so that trade-off of having to make more difficult decisions or be more modest or reserved or choosing the more respectful route, it's really a way of honoring our future selves and the opportunities we don't want to take from them.
Okay, let me get in y'all's business a little bit, please. Have you talked yet about when y'all little gorgeous babies gonna come along? Have you talked about that yet? Tell me about that. It's just me and y'all.
Just us. Just the three of us.
I've said it before. My friends asked me this at our wedding. They were like, "Do you want to have kids?" I said, "I'll have as many kids as he can support." Like I want there to be as many people in this world can say Cassius Johnson is their father. Like he's a phenomenal man. When that happens though, that's on his checking account will tell us that.
Now you just said something. As many as he can support.
Yeah.
So Sol is your handle.
Mm-hmm.
Are you Mr. and Mrs. Cassius Johnson? Or how y'all work that out? How do 25-year-olds work that out?
No, I'm taking his last name. Like
Okay.
yeah, it's definitely Miss Johnson, Mrs. Johnson. Oof.
Okay. And now you said as many as he can support. So is that is that giving voice to a more traditional male female role in a sense?
Mhm.
Or what or tell me about that.
It's not, this also comes up. Of course, I mean, choosing to get married and especially under the Trump administration when there's like, all this reproductive justice being banned. For Black people, though, that's never been our tradition. The tradition within the Black household has been for us to be separated between the house and the field, between the domestic sphere and the carceral state. We've always had assault on the Black domestic family. And so for me, I actually see this as revolutionary. I don't think this is tradition. I think this is counter tradition and us trying to lay the groundwork for something else. So, I think that having children is beautiful. I think that families are beautiful. I think that if we're going to talk about the right to not have children, we should also talk about what are the resources and the supports that can be in place for us to be able to have as many children as our bodies want to, and so that's where I stand on it.
How many children you want to have, Cassius?
Again, as many as I can support, I mean, I have two younger brothers, and so I like the idea of 3. I don't know, but again, I'm not really, set on any particular number.
Mhm.
I what I take by as many as I can support is how many can I give my undivided attention to,
Mhm.
because, yes, financially supporting your children, definitely important, but, growing up in private schools, I saw so many families where, their fathers, they weren't present because they were always working. They're always in the office,
Mhm.
but they had everything they needed but you could see those wounds, of not really having that sort of familial support and interaction, and that was actually something that I always was able to receive from my parents. They
Mhm.
were very present, whether it was taking me to games, driving me to school in the morning, stuff like that. It's the little things like that that go a long way. And so I think if, as long as I'm able to, do those things, be present for their recitals,
Mhm.
be able to go to their parent teacher, conferences and stuff like that, where where I don't have to rush out to, go to the office late at night. Like that's kind of where I'm at in supporting my family. The money will come. We're smart, we're ambitious. That's it's all just like doing the work. But it's like how how much attention can we give? Because again, like Sol was saying, like you see these you see the deficiencies, I guess, for lack of a better word, of when a, a family isn't really involved in a child's life, but you don't really see it until much later. They uh I don't want to say they're independent, but I'd say they are. It is hard for them to find partnership or to trust people, and
Mhm.
uh rely on other people's support, and so I want to be able to give my children a similar experience that I received from my parents, who were extremely involved in raising me and my brothers.
Which is just such an honor and a testament to great parenting.
Yeah.
Okay, let me lift the covers up a little bit more and try to get a little bit more in y'all's business. Y'all business. Did somebody, did one or the other make a proposal, actually do a proposal?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Who that? Who did that?
I proposed. I
Can
proposed.
you share with me and my audience your proposal?
Oh man. So
And and
it's I,
and Cassius, you the greatest of all time. So I don't apologize for putting you on the spot because you can handle it. You're the greatest of all time.
you're right. You're right. So it's actually funny though that you mentioned, the greatest of all time, Muhammad Ali, because I was actually going on a work trip to Las
Mhm.
Vegas to promote a boxing fight. So I work in sports media, and that my client had to fly out to Las Vegas to promote this fight. And you know, Sol, she'd been talking about wanting a vacation for a long time. We both work extremely hard. We needed some time to just get away from the city, decompress, you know, and, we were going, I was like, why don't you come along? We decided that she would come along with me on this work trip. I'd be working. She'd get to, and sit by the pool, enjoy, enjoy her time, in Las Vegas. Um, but, with Las Vegas, I guess being like, I don't know if this is really true, but being like the marriage capital of the world,
Mhm.
um, we're like, let's get married. We've been together for 8 years, going on 9. You
Wait a minute,
know,
who said that?
I did
Okay, okay,
going 8 years,
okay.
going on 9. And it's like, you know what? I'm ready to take that step. I'm ready to grow up, be that man. And I don't want you to leave. I don't want you to be out of my presence. I love you, and you've been a part of my life for so long that, like, honestly, like, I, I don't even know what that would look like if she wasn't in my life, and, like Sol has been saying, we've been able to achieve so much together, and we're both very ambitious people. And I'm like, let's put this in writing, like let's make this happen. And so,
Let's make it
I
official.
yeah, make it official, like we've we've done everything else. We got the cat, the dog, the house, but it's like, no, let's do this. Let's make it happen, And so I proposed, and then we flew out and actually put together a whole wedding in the span of what, 5 days?
Oh my.
3 days.
Oh my.
Oh my
Okay,
Yeah.
God.
so Cassius said he just kind of casually said, I
Yeah.
propose.
Yeah.
And I want to go directly to you. He proposed, and your reaction was.
I was like, no way. Well, I didn't believe him. We had celebrated our 8 years a week before, and it was like absolutely like just absolutely gorgeous anniversary celebration. So I was blown away. I thought maybe he would propose then, and then he didn't, and I was like, oh, I was pissed off. I was pissed off.
We had a great night.
We went to the arcade with his best friend that was on our first date with us. Actually, we went to the arcade with him and his girlfriend. I had a bad attitude, and they were like, "What's wrong with you?" She pulled me to the side. I was like, "I'm ready to be married. I'm tired of being a girlfriend." And I feel like he could see that restlessness kind of coming up in me. And there were certain things he was like, I just, for work, it was a work thing for him of having his life in order. And so when his job introduced him to his successor and he was promoted to executive, he felt ready. And he's a casual guy like that. So at first I didn't believe him. And then when he got on one knee and he just started pouring his heart out to me about what partnership means and how he wants to be with someone that it's only the two of us share the inside joke against the whole world, you know, and that and just
I want
communicate.
to make sure my audience don't miss anything.
Yeah.
You said he was on one knee?
He got on one knee. No, he did. He did the thing.
Come on with it. Come on with it.
Did the thing. He got on one knee.
Yeah.
And he's like, pack your bags. Like, let's do this. I want to do this. And let's go to see my mother tonight and tell her. And so that same night that he proposed, we got on the train, we went to his mom, and we sat down and told her we're going to get married. And he's just leading this whole thing. He's like, I couldn't believe it. I thought he was just going to be like, okay, maybe later, whatever. No, once we told his mom, we came back that same night, we packed our bags, and then we flew to Vegas. Yeah.
So I'm a very, like I've said before, I'm a very reserved guy. I don't always make it known what it is that I'm thinking, but when I make up my mind that I want to do something, I do it. You know, and there's very little things that can stop me when I decide that this is something that I want to do. And that was it. You know, I'd actually decided a long time ago that I wanted to marry Treasure, you know, like, of course, this was something that we talked about, you know, marriage, spending the rest of our lives together. But I decided, I was like, okay, this is something that I need to make happen very soon for my own sake, you know. And, you know, when that opportunity presented itself, it's like, you know, this is perfect. Like, this is like, what did I say? I said it was a final celebration of before we become adults.
Just us going crazy. It was so fun. It was the most fun I've ever had, actually.
It was a lot. It was a lot, but it was
so
a great time.
Take me to the wedding day.
Oh my gosh.
And take me inside the did you go to one of the chapels in Vegas?
We did. We went to the oldest chapel in Vegas, the one that Elvis gets married in Viva's Las Vegas. So
yeah,
it was. He tells me this. Now, I produce for a living and I produce production. So I'm thinking, okay, I got to kind of do this like if someone hired me for a job on a week's notice to pop up a production of a wedding. So I'm like looking for venues. I touched down and every store I went into, I said, hey, I'm getting married. I need a dress. Found a dress immediately. And then I say, hey, do you know a florist? And then the people at the dress shop would refer me to a florist. And then the florist would refer me to the jeweler. And then and literally the community in Las Vegas was so open-hearted and beautiful. Our Uber driver. So when we landed, the Uber driver that took us to the airport's name was Jesus. I swear, I had to take a screenshot. The pilot that flew us home's name was Angel. And the whole week was just totally anointed and beautiful of just people coming around us. The Uber driver that took us to get our marriage license pulled over and prayed over us before we got out of the car. And then she agreed to drive us for the rest of our trip for free. Just call me when you are ready to go. I'll pick you up. I'll drop you. I mean, just people totally feeling the power of our union and just wanting to see it happen. So the day of the wedding, my best friends live in LA and they flew out. They were like, we're not missing this. My mom and dad were like, we're not missing this. And I'm from the West Coast, so it's a little different than Cassius, who's from the East Coast.
Sure.
And everyone just showed up, and I was the most calm I'd ever been. I can be really type A and structured, but when it came to the day of, I felt totally taken care of. When I actually had to walk down the aisle, though, I just started bawling, crying, and I was really like, no,
Say it
no.
again. Say it
I
again.
started bawling, hysterically crying. The second I laid eyes on him, I started hysterically crying. And he just looks at me and he nods his head like, yes, we are doing this. And so I nod my head back. And I'm just profusely crying the whole time. And I'm generally known as like the writer between us. But we were running around trying to get the wedding plan that we couldn't fully write our vows. So both of us had written half of our vows. And then it just fell off from there. But we just spoke from the heart, and the things that he said, I was like, wow, this is absolutely the person I can trust with the rest of my life. Yeah.
I actually only wrote the first line of my vows.
They were
Which was-
perfect. They were perfect.
I said it was. I don't even remember what I said, but essentially just like I love you, and that was all I wrote. And then from there, it was just from the heart, you know.
So, Cassius, what I'd like to do, again, I'd like to stay right there in the chapel. You're at the altar. You wrote your first line. To the extent that you can, share with us what you said. What you said when she got up there.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, I just emphasized, like, since we were 17, it's just been us. You know, it's been me and her as a unit, as a collective team. And I just wanted to reassure her that I said, I want to be your champion. I want to be your king. Yeah, for the rest of my life, for the rest of both of our lives, however long that is, you know. And I want to be someone that you can look to and rely on for love and care and support, no matter what the issue is, you know. Because honestly, that's what our lives have been. That's what our partnership has been up to that point. And I just want to emphasize, like, that's what it's going to continue to be, and then some.
Treasure?
What were my vows?
You at the altar, and what the sister say back to the brother man?
When I was writing my vows, he was working, and I said to him, you know, the work that you do has provided us food. It's ensured us shelter. And I see how you've grown into a man. Like, we've grown up together from being children, and I see you as my leader. I see you as my example. You are my faith in men. You are my faith in humanity. And I promise you my life. I promise to love you for my life. And when I said that, in my mind, I'm thinking of love as patience and love as being kind and not boastful, you know, like the true definition of love.
You use a word that I think, when I was preparing for this, and if just questioning whether or not I had anything to offer you guys, I read something. It was a study that was done by people who had been married 50 years, and the question was, what if any one thing was it that helped you to be married 50 years happily? But some people have been married a long time and ain't happy.
Mm-hmm.
And it came out resoundingly that as a practical matter, an effective practice was when you think your mate might qualify as the dumbest human being on the planet for what they just said or what they just did, try your damnedest to be kind.
Mm.
Try to be kind. So I say to you, this is 43 years for me.
Mm.
Congratulations.
Having been married. And not always far from perfect and not even always been kind. But I know the value of kindness. So I certainly would say, given what you all have done and the example that the shining example that you're going to be for many, try to remember to be kind. Definitely, kind of etch that into your psyches about being kind. So, where are you guys now? Are you in Greenwich?
No, we're in New York.
You're in New York. Okay. And again, Cassius, I heard you say you're involved in the boxing community.
I am.
And the fight was a couple of weeks ago. What fight was that, by the way?
It was Diego Pacheco versus Steve Nelson.
And that's boxing and not the kickboxing?
Yeah, just regular old school boxing.
Okay, mano a mano.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so and what's your involvement with the boxing world?
Yeah, so I will promote the fights through media placements and stuff like that, but I'll also facilitate and organize different interviews with these fighters and place them in different media outlets, whether it's TV, radio,
Okay.
magazines, newspapers, all that.
Okay.
And it's actually funny because I actually through that I get to establish like a personal relationship with a lot of these guys,
Mm-hmm.
and it's funny because I think it was the night after
Yeah.
our wedding, we all of us, me and Sol's friends, we all went out to eat, and we literally closed this place down. I think we left at like 6 a.m.
Oh wow.
Just
Wow.
talking, celebrating, laughing.
Wow.
But keep in mind, this is in Las Vegas, and so
Yeah.
the restaurants are all in casinos.
Sure.
And while we're leaving, we run into Diego Pacheco,
I
Who
mean,
had just won the fight too.
he was the main guy on the fight, main card.
Okay.
Up and coming superstar. If you're a boxing fan, you already know who he is, and if not, you will soon. And I run into him. He recognizes me. I recognize him. We say what's up, talk really quick, and then I leave. And I come to Sol and her friend. I'm like, "Do you guys want to meet Diego Pacheco?" And like they can see the type of person he is, the type of fighter he is, just from how he carried himself in the ring. And they're like, "Of course, we'd love to." So I run over, go back, and it was actually funny. The first time I introduced Sol as my wife was him. Said, "Diego, I want you to meet my wife." And yeah, it was a surreal moment, honestly. Yeah, the small thing.
Okay, I gotta go to you. So you got introduced for the first time.
Yeah.
As his wife, and him saying, "Meet my wife," and you felt what?
I felt proud, but I mean, like, I felt proud to be his wife, but also because he was introducing me to a prized fighter that we have been watching move through the country from Madison Square Garden all the way to Vegas, just knocking people out. And I saw the respect that man had for my man, And so that to me was like a moment of, wow, not only have we graduated to that being my title, but I get to be associated by someone who can make this sort of introduction possible, who can make these sorts of experiences possible. Like we're in Vegas at 6 a.m. running slot machines with my best friends. Like this is again, it's a fairy tale. I'm like, I just felt so blessed, and I continue to. I have to remind myself he's not my boyfriend because I'm so used to my boyfriend. I was with my sister yesterday, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm getting some dinner for my boyfriend." And she goes, "You mean your husband?" I'm like, that sounds a little crazy.
So Cassius, I think I had a little involvement in the world of boxing, and I did on January the 17th in Miami. There was a group there that was meeting It was a group that's formed in Panama calling Black Expats in Panama,
Mm.
uh, BEIP. And the lady who headed it up invited me to come there.
Sorry, I don't understand.
See, I don't understand you. We're gonna cut that out. Uh, um, so she, yeah, she invited it because we've looked for a place. We've been looking for a place and probably gonna get a place in Panama. And I said, "Oh yeah, I'll come down and meet you and some of your folks."
Mm.
And I said, "Oh, it's January 17th. Are you from? Do you know that's Ali's birthday?"
Mm.
And she said, "Oh no, I didn't. That's special." I said, "Well, if you're gonna have 40 or 50 people, I'll come and I'll do a little something for Ali's birthday."
Mm.
Because I was the most obsessive Cassius Clay, Muhammad Ali person on the planet. And the little something I did goes like this. This is the legend of Cassius Clay, the most beautiful fighter of the world today. He talks a great deal and brags indeedy of a muscular punch that's incredibly speedy. The fisted world was dull and weary with a champ like listen things stand to be dreary. Then someone with color, someone with dash brought fight fans a running with cash. The brass young boxer's something to see, and the heavyweight championship is his destiny. The kid's got speed and endurance. If you sign to fight him, you better raise your insurance. Oh, rumble, young man, rumble.
I love it.
So I wanted to share that with you guys
I'm
because
impressed.
it truly, I truly am delighted to have had you on. The road that I know that you all are going to pave, you are a young man who has even now, promotional skills, marketing skills, advertising skills, as does so. You are humble people who don't necessarily look to, just promote yourselves for the sake of promoting yourself. This I know. But I am so utterly hopeful that there will be some other venues, there will be some other platforms that allow you to tell this heartwarming story that everyone needs to hear, especially in the Black community in this time of utter crisis.
Mm.
I want to applaud you all, both of you, and to thank you for coming on. And if there is anything that I missed or anything that either of you would like to impart, um, you know what? Before I go to that rap, because my producer gave me some stuff that I wanted to deal with, and his word was meism.
Mm.
The meism. I don't have time for kids. I don't have time to be controlled. I don't have time to feel the obligation. Speak to that.
I'm happy to speak to that. I had a crossroads after I graduated from Harvard, where I had to ask myself, I'm very ambitious. I have a lot of goals. What place is romance going to take up in my life? Is this going to be a distraction? And I looked at so many successful women that I deeply admired, and they had everything but someone to come home to at the end of the day. And when I noticed that, I told myself, I have to make time for love. I have to make time to be someone that is loving. And like my mom always tells me, no one has to love you, and how to honor the people who are showing up. And the love that Cassius routinely showed me, I said, how do I honor this? And how do I trust that it will pour back into me and won't detract from anything that I want? And, when I talk to my friends about it, because we are in this individualist hustle culture, groceries are high, people are focused on money, people aren't focused on love. And like you said, it's very easy to be unkind today more than ever. I realized, life is gonna change you anyway. You lose family members and it changes you. You get rejected from things you desire, it changes you. You don't get the jobs you want, it changes you. Love is something you can choose to let change you for the better. And so every time I came up against what I wanted as an individual and the person I wanted to succeed with being Cassius, I chose him, and I found that the transformations that grew in me, they only make me better. This is challenging, but it's challenging in ways that make me a better person. And I know that I will go further ultimately, like I said before, having him in my corner than having to go at this alone. So it's really a matter of perspective, long-term versus short-term investments. And so you can thug it out by yourself and choose me, 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 but I'm telling you, you look at these celebrities, you look at the people that they have gotten everything, and they are still in their 50s and 60s just pawning themselves off to anyone who can take them, and they never learned how to be in relation. So do the work now. Just do the work.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Um, what I have to say about that is, I guess, like, there's a saying: if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go with someone, go together. And I hold that to be true. You know, and also though the asterisk to that is that if you're able to get that union right, you could go fast too.
Hmm.
You can actually go way faster than people think. You just have to get it right, and it takes work. That's also a thing that I think a lot of young people don't really realize. We got these dating apps, Tinder, where it's literally like a game. It's like they've gamified love and romance,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
and I think because of that, and with social media and everything, I think people are given misinformation that there are so many options for them, and
Hmm.
while that may be true, that there are a lot of options, do all the pieces fit? And how many of those people are there in the world that fit for you? You know, I don't know. I don't know. But I think realizing and accepting too that being in a strong, committed relationship takes work, it takes time, and it takes repeated dedication. Every day you have to decide, I'm choosing this person. Like, it's hard. It's hard, adopting that mindset of, rather than thinking, with every decision you make, thinking, how does this affect me? Instead thinking, how does this affect us? You know? And I think that's something I'm still working on, but it's like, it's still something I think about, you know? And I think that if you're able to adopt that mindset, you know, I think it's something that can, permeate and that you can apply to the rest of your life too. You know, if you want that promotion, you want that job, it's going to take work. It's going to take a lot of work. It's not, can't just, apply to LinkedIn, and then get it. It's like you got to develop your skills. You have to do interviews, develop your interpersonal skills and stuff like that, you know. Um, so I say that recognizing that there's that work goes into it, real work, real dedicated work. Um, and also, I wanted to circle back on what you said, Rock, about being kind. You know, we, Sol and I, we live together. And I've said this to her before of like, you know, it's so important to be kind to one another, because if you're living with someone for 8 years, one day you may wake up and be like, I hate the way you brush your teeth. I don't like the way you put on socks, like stuff like that. Because we're humans, we're imperfect creatures, but it's like, it's just gonna be like the little things like that that can, they add up and that can corrode the relationship that you have. And so it's important to, you know, counterbalance that with kindness, like you said.
Cassius Johnson and Soul. I'm going to say one more time, thank you so much for giving us this time today. Um, I have to talk to my producer because we agree on stuff like what I'm about to talk about. But I think I'm going to call this uh, segment, this show, the Rock Newman Show 2.0,
Mm.
a beautiful love story.
Mm.
And the fact that we are airing it here on Valentine's Day adds a little something to it. And I just want to say thank you. Thank the two of you. And folks, uh, Avis, my producer, will hit me with a bow and arrow, will hit me with an arrow from a bow if I don't tell you to subscribe, to like, and to tell folks about us. God bless you, and we'll see you the next time.
God bless you.
Thank you, Rock.